A 2-week-old loaf of bread, a sleeve of saltine crackers, or the NC State offense looking just stale.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This Saturday post-game live is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you can get started with $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to get started. Post-game live here on Saturday, NC State beats Northern Illinois by a score of 24-17. Dave Doeren comes out with the win over his former program, but as we've come to be accustomed to with Dave Doeren era here in Raleigh, it was none too pretty. Kenton, where do you want to start here?
You know, I want to start with this, okay? Dave Doeren has raised the floor of this program immensely. This team has expectations, and that's why Grayson and I and many in Wolfpack Nation feel the way we feel. This is something that, again, the team they're going in the right direction. However, in year 12, we are still talking about clock mismanagement issues. In year 12, we are still talking about not putting your foot on the gas in terms of the second half. In year 12, we are still talking about, and this is something that to me is a problem that stretches beyond the offensive coordinators, because we saw it with Beck, and now we're seeing it with Anai as well. Get the QB draw out your lexicon. Get it out of your damn vocabulary. Move it. Get rid of it. And so it's one of those moments for me where, I mean, hey, CW Magic abided. You know, you beat a team that beat Notre Dame. That's great. That's good. All that good stuff. But this game, something is off. The vibes are just off. There's, you know, a lot of people made a lot about Kevin Concepcion's face after his touchdown and all that. But I think there's so much more to it, because I've got this stat sheet in front of me, and this is one of the oddest stat sheets that I've ever seen in my life. For example, one oddity, Kevin Concepcion had 8 targets. The rest of the team had 8 targets. Kevin Concepcion had 4 receptions for 4 yards. Now, here's the craziest part. 9 yards after catch. I want you to think about that for a second. 4 receptions for 4 yards and 9 yards after catch. What are we doing that we cannot find him beyond the line of scrimmage? What are we doing that anything beyond a push pass is seemingly unavailable there? And yet, here's the worst part. That was Bailey's first passing touchdown, the flat route. What are we doing here? It's so confusing to me because, you know, last week the defense couldn't stop a runny nose with Robitussin and every vaccine you could imagine and you know, 3 pallets of tissue. And now all of a sudden, the offense can't give anything. There's just something very strange going on
here. The word I just keep going back to is stale. And you know, there were some worries that when a freshman quarterback, CJ Bailey, takes over, okay, we're going to have some freshman plays. There's going to be a learning curve. You know, despite the LA Tech game ending and then last week at Clemson, you know, you felt good about where CJ Bailey was. Today, it was kind of that waiting for the other shoe to drop, and you got a very freshman performance. Now, That's not excusing the play calling, because I remain to have a couple questions about that. You talked about the QB draw. I've had enough. I've had enough of the QB draw. It's funny because, like, for years growing up as a State fan, I'm like, man, I wish we could have more mobile QB play, maybe some dual threat quarterback action. Not like this. I don't want a QB draw on 3rd and 17 for 4 yards and then a punt. I'm so tired of seeing that type of thing. You talked about
And the worst
KC.
part is that's what defenses expect on 3rd and 18, 3rd and 19.
Exactly.
Defenses are saying, oh, yeah, 3rd and 18, 3rd and 19. Don't trust this freshman. Screen or draw, everybody. Let's bring them in, screen or draw, and we abide every time.
Yeah, so, I mean, the offense remains very stagnant. We talked last week about wondering, when is this team going to show us who they are? I think we've reached the point we know who they are. They're a very stale offense. They're not explosive at all, and I think that's something you're going to have to expect here moving forward. So that's a very tough pill to swallow. Switching gears, the defense. I tweeted it early in the game. Kenton tweeted it throughout this game. The defense looked like a unit that was embarrassed the week before. They came out with that energy. Davin Van had an excellent game. That senior leadership. We talked a lot about leadership this past week. It needs to be present for this team to get going. Today it did. DK Kaufman, another great game. He's had very good moments, a couple shaky moments, but today was another good showing for him. Thank God for the defense today, because the offense was flat out not good enough to win this game. And so if the defense doesn't show up and play their heart out in the way that they did, you probably lose to Northern Illinois. And we feel a whole lot worse than how we currently do. But right now it still feels not great. This team is just grinding by. And I tweeted at the very end of this game, I was listening to Nick Saban on College Game Day this morning. And he was talking about teams that aren't playing well, but they just kind of scrape by week to week. That's the kiss of death. Because you talk about complacency and not learning from your mistakes and growing as a team. Just good enough isn't good enough. You have to demand excellence. And this team is extremely far away from excellence right now. And I think that's why we're struggling with the teams like Western Carolina and LA Tech and now Northern Illinois. Not to discredit Northern Illinois. I think they are a good team. I think they'll compete at a high level in the MAC conference, but NC State doesn't need to find themselves in a position where we're scraping by at home to beat a MAC team, with all due respect. But that's where we currently are. The complacency is evident. The staleness of the offense is evident. It's blah. It's very blah. The whole thing is a blah sandwich. And it's difficult to watch.
At what point do we get tired of it? And I do want to reinforce one thing here.
Point. I am tired.
And I do want to reinforce one thing here. 3-2 is better than 2-3.
Yes.
So everybody deserves credit for that. 3-2 is better than 2-3. This could have gone another way and all that. But why do we keep having to have this moment? Did we learn nothing from Boston College a few years ago where it's like, oh, we got a young guy, so we got to play it conservative. We got to be very cautious. We got to be very, we got to tiptoe. And no, we don't want to do anything wrong. We want to make sure everything. At some point in time, you have to just let them hang. You just got to, you know what? I'll be damned. If we lose, we're going to lose because we were too aggressive and we'll live with that. But it's kind of tough seeing a recurring theme in year 12 and then those timeout calls at the end of the game. What were we doing?
What is that?
What were we doing? They're about to have a delay of game. Why are we calling a timeout? To me, as a coach, it should be an automatic rule for you. I don't give a damn if it's hell or high water. If a team is inside 3 seconds on the play clock, baby, you can snap the ball or you could go ahead and take your timeout. But I'm going to take my chances. Once you get down to that 3-2-1, whatever I thought I was going to do, we're good. You can go ahead and handle it. Because I was so confused when the ref said delay a game, and then another ref came in and said, no, NC State called the time. I said, no, there's no way. And lo and behold, there were some good parts of this game, though, and I want to get to those after we come back from break, because there were some parts of this game that really did shine through at an extremely high level.
Our first live sponsor of our Saturday post-game feed is Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events easier than ever before. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The curation of Gametime Picks makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, you name it, they got it all on one app. As always, if you toggle the all-in pricing feature on the app, it'll show your total up front, so you receive zero surprises at checkout. If you're in the market for tickets next weekend at home against Wake Forest, make sure you get on over to Gametime. Take the guesswork, in fact, out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account and use redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? You already know. It's game time. All right, middle portion of our live show here on Saturday, recapping a 24-17 victory over Northern Illinois. Kenton, you talked about wanting to talk about the good. I'll kind of lead us in here. It was the defense. I was impressed overall, the sum of all its parts. I was impressed with the defense. I tweeted out, I thought T-Mac Cooley had a really good game. You might not have seen him all over the stat sheet, so to speak, but felt like every time there was a big moment produced by the defense, Cooley was right in the middle of it.
Cooley, Kaufman, Van, Fordham, all those guys played their hearts out, played their absolute hearts out. But there is one group that played even better than them. Caden Noonkester and that punt team did phenomenal.
Perhaps the player of the game.
8 punts, 398 yards, an average of 49.8 yards per punt. That is 10 more yards than Northern Illinois' punter had per punt. 7 inside the 20. For those of you who don't recognize the significance of that, our defense did play well. Do you know how much easier it is for an offense to score when they're not at their 10, their 5? It is so much easier if he just would have missed once or twice and kicked it through the back of the end zone. Now they get it on the 25. It would have been so much easier for those guys to get points. 8 punts, 7 inside the 20 is insane. For reference, Northern Illinois' punter had 5 punts. 1 was inside the 20. Only 1. So, the defense, Davin Van does Davin Van things. I bought Davin Van stock 2 years ago, and boy, am I living good off that stock. The dividends which it pays, absolutely phenomenal. The fact that our defense just continued to turn over NIU time after time after time again. If we talk about the fumble recovery for a touchdown by DK Kaufman, he said, y'all put me on Locked On Look of the Week. How about you do it again? How about you do it again? This time in a positive manner. We see you. We'll consider it. And you get the second fumble forced by Davin Van that then takes you to the 1-yard line. If you include those two as like touchdowns for the defense scored 14 points. Now, Grayson, we scored 24 as in total. How many would that mean the offense has scored?
A measly 10.
10. Okay. So moving forward from there, again, the defense, they did their thing to the highest degree. I would never demand my defense hold a team under 17 points and score 14 points themselves. So in essence, your defense came out a total of -3. Your defense came out a total of -3. Think about how crazy that is. Like, we're not talking about what they did against the average defense in America. Because think about it now. If a defense doesn't score a touchdown and they let up 21 points, most people say that's a good thing. Great game. You came out -21 in terms of how much you score versus how much you were scored upon, which is normal. That's normal and natural because defenses are by design not supposed to do the bulk of your scoring. And yet we got it here. So the defense and special teams need to be saluted until we can no longer raise our arms, until we hear an at ease, because I am telling you, these guys put it all out on the line. They really and truly did. And I'll tell you something. In particular, that defensive line, everybody that played on that defensive line today played with their hair on fire. Everybody. And I'll tell you, even the run fits where somebody lost contain or something like that, it was not the guys up front that were doing it. So shout out to them. They did a fantastic job of bouncing back from what was objectively an embarrassing display. They came back and they were fired up. They were motivated. The linebackers as well. Kamal Bonner, welcome to the party. We've been looking for Sam, and you may be the guy. You may be the guy for the job. He did a fantastic job in this game. Again, this was defensively, the secondary. I know that a lot of people are making a big to-do about Aiden White's struggle so far this season, and rightfully so. But even the only pass that was called on him, the only big play that was called on him, you can't have better coverage than where he was. You can't do anything more than what he did. It was literally a perfect pass, perfect catch. It's one of those, I tip my ball cap, now you got to do it again. You know, every single player that showed up in terms of that, they did phenomenal defensively. And the corner number 16, whose name is eluding me right now,
Devon Marshall.
Devon Marshall, excellent coverage as well. One thing that I will always say is this: I'm not going to get mad at a defense for allowing catches because, I mean, at the end of the day, they got scholarship guys over there too.
Right.
Don't allow any easy catches. Everything that Northern Illinois had, it was contested or somebody was coming to lay some lumber on the back end of it. I mean, I thought it was lumber liquidators, the way that every time you looked around, somebody was getting wooded up just because they caught the ball. And that's what I love to see. That is what I absolutely love to see. So all in all, defensively, special teams, this was a special performance.
Yeah, and we talked about that kind of is the staple of the Dave Doeren era. He likes to win ugly. This was winning ugly. He likes to win using his defense late in the game. Did exactly that. I want to go back to the defensive line play, like you mentioned, probably their best showing of the season so far. And that's kind of the group that you really needed to get going coming into this game. Yeah, shout out to Davin Van, 3.5 TFLs just by himself. He was involved with that forced fumble, actually was credited with both of the forced fumbles. Outstanding. That's your senior leader. That's what we needed to see. He's been consistently that senior leader, and that needed to bleed in to the rest of the team. We already mentioned DK Kaufman. Excellent game. Involved in another turnover that shaped that game. Excellent. Sean Brown and Caden Fordham. Pretty good game. They led us in tackling yet again. They're always in the mix, as they should be. You talked about Kamal Bonner. We talked about it earlier this week. I think you need to start looking perhaps some Kamal Bonner snaps there at the Sam linebacking position. I think I'd jump on board with that one pretty quickly. So, yeah, all told, defense, they answered the bell when we needed them to, because otherwise it might have been an SOS situation with Northern Illinois. They're a tough team. Again, I do want to give them a bit of credit here. They're a good team. They pushed us to the very end. We warned y'all that was the type of game we were likely going to get into over the course of this week, and they did exactly that. Technically did cover the spread. If you're into that, NC State wins by 7, not 6.5. So they covered for the first time this year. Do we feel great about it? No, but at least it's better than getting blown out the other way. So again, it's difficult when you're not playing well consistently. You got to still find silver linings in here somewhere. A win is always a win, and it's better to learn in a win than it is a loss. We are 3-2, much better than 2-3. It is what it is. But saying that, I do want to circle back to this offense because we remain stale. And that's like the 38th time I've said it here on this post-game live. We have got to figure out answers for the offense quickly. And I know CJ Bailey's a true freshman. He looked like a true freshman today.
Yeah.
Just you have the inconsistencies with using the wide receivers continues to be my number one gripe. Noah Rogers, you saw how early got him involved in that first quarter. I was like, okay. I was about to tweet the LeBron meme. I can't believe this is my life, because Noah Rogers was consistently moving the ball down the field. I'm like, all right, they've heard the podcast. They understand we got to, spread the field. This is it. And then that was more or less the last we saw of Noah Rogers for the rest of the day. Justin Jolie, kind of the same story. If I were in their shoes, I would be frustrated, and I'm sure that they are. They want to contribute on a much higher level than the opportunities that they're being given. That is certainly frustrating. It's frustrating for fans, frustrating for the team. This offense has got to be sorted out sooner than later. Now, you don't have any more non-conference games to kind of figure things out in. It's ACC play from here on out. You got Wake Forest coming into town next week. After that, I believe you have Syracuse. 2 teams that want to come in and ruin your season. They do.
Yes.
We still have only 1 conference loss. You're not technically out of anything, but they would love nothing more than to come in and ruin your season. If you cannot find ways to consistently move the ball down the field, you're going to struggle. It's great when the defense can bail you out with a strong performance. It's unreasonable to ask them to do that in every single game from here on out. It just simply won't work. This offense has got to get clicking ASAP, because otherwise it will be SOS.
One thing that I want to point out here, in terms of the kind of disappearance of a lot of the pass catchers and all that down the stretch. I genuinely don't understand how on your only long touchdown drive of the game, you see Noah Rodgers get both of his catches for 48 yards and then nothing else. What?
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's mind-boggling.
I'm genuinely like, I'm so confused as to how you see, oh, we have a mismatch here. Ignore it. Thank you. Hey, that's working. Let's stop it. Let's save it for another game. And don't get me wrong. If you were that much better than this team to where you could just have your way and like, we could do whatever. We could put whoever out there and we'll be okay. I'm fine with that. I'm really fine with that. If you were that much better to where like Grayson and I are nitpicking a 35-point win, hell, a 20-point win, we're like,
Right.
I might be all right with that. We are talking about a game that came down to intercepting a Hail Mary. And mind you, honestly and truly, from that distance, if I'm a head coach, I'm not doing a Hail Mary. I'm going a little pitchy woo-woo to see just what we could get done from that distance. So I sit here and I say to myself, this is something that I look at and I'm like, why? Why? Your first drive of the game, the touchdown drive, you get no involved big time. You know, teams know when 10 is going in motion. When 10 is going in motion,
they know what he is.
Oh, here comes the push pass. He's going to try to get around that edge. Hey, defensive ends, when you see 10 coming, don't worry about the inside zone. Don't worry about that coming back. You don't got to worry about nothing but that low push pass. Hey, safeties, when you see him, come on down. Roll on down to the box. What did Bob Barker used to say on The Price is Right? Come on down, because that's what you do when you see 10 go into motion. So I'm very confused by this. And again, there was a very distinct reason why one of the keys for this week was, hey, the rest of the team needs to have 5 more targets than Kevin Concepcion. We're going to spoil that for you this week because Kevin Concepcion had 8 and the rest of the team had 8. That's what we're looking at here. Kevin Concepcion, and we already talked about the fact that he had 4 yards on a reception. And again, this is not an indictment of Kevin Concepcion at all. This is not me nor Grayson saying, oh, Kevin Concepcion can't get it done. He doesn't have the goods. But what I'm saying is you have to get these other guys involved more heavily. Where's my Dakari Collins touches? Where are my Justin Jolie touches? Where are my Noah Rodgers touches? Again, Noah Rodgers, Jordan Waters, Justin Jolie, Hollywood Smothers, Kendrick Raphael, Jules Marine, all of these guys combined for 8 targets. If you can convince me, hey, our freshman quarterback needs all the help in the world, and we want to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Okay, so why don't you run the drive concept? You got a drag with an end over the top of it. Guess what? You can still get KC the ball running across the defense. He just doesn't have to deal with those 4 really big guys who will be up the field by then. Throw a little rail on the backside. Let Bailey say, hey, what are the safeties doing? That'll tell me what I'm doing right away. Drive is one of the simplest concepts there. Why are we not running these things? Why are we not running things that, hey, this should be easy. This should be pie. It's just very confusing to me in terms of what I'm seeing out of this offense, or what I'm not seeing out of this offense, rather, because it's like, at what point in time are we all know that the best group on the offense is the receiver. I think we can all agree to that. I don't think anybody would argue, hey, the pass catchers ain't the best group. So why the hell are we not using them? It's just, again, I'm very confused by this, because even if you look at Northern Illinois, right, their top guys came away with, other than their top receiver, their top guys came away with 9 targets, and ours 8. So just very nasty work.
And something we've seen over the course of now 5 games, the run game has not been consistent enough to only complete 13 passes and expect to win, at least handedly. 13 catches for 108 yards and 1 touchdown. rushing game was 27 rushes for just 63 yards and a touchdown. Again, a win is a win. That's all fine and dandy. That type of performance, if it extrapolates forward, it will not be good enough. It will consistently not be good enough. Our second sponsor of our live read is FanDuel. If I can find my ad, here it is. All right. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the very same page that you're placing all of your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place just your first $5 bet, but you got to get on over to FanDuel.com. Last couple minutes here of our post-game live on Saturday. NC State wins against Northern Illinois 24-17. Kenton, of course, we always do our big picture takeaways on Monday, so we won't get too far into the weeds, but what are your lasting impressions of this victory on Saturday?
I just want to correct one thing that I've been saying all episode. In total, the other guys had 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 targets to KC's 8. So just want to correct that for you for a second because they did not include Kendrick Raphael or Waters on there. But, yeah, there we go. Still not 5 more than your top guy there. So how fun that is. But my big picture takeaways are simple. The defense is showing up being who they are. We need that effort consistently. And the thing about the defense that I saw that was different, it wasn't anything with scheme. It wasn't anything with less blitzing, more blitzing, anything like that was like specifically so much higher or lower than what we normally see. It was just guys being dudes. It was just guys deciding, hey, I'm going to fill this gap like my damn life depends on it. That's all you needed to see. And now, boom, you get that. Offensively, my big picture is the picture needs to be changed. You need to, if this is an Etch-a-Sketch, shake it up. Shake it up. Erase the whole thing before we go again because I genuinely don't understand what we're doing or where we are right now. I want to make something very clear here. I get it. There are going to be the freshman struggles of CJ Bailey. And like I've always said, because the guy who is the senior is not playing exponentially better than him, leave his behind in there. Let him learn, let him grow, let him do all the things. But this was abysmal on another level. This was bad on another level. And so we really and truly need to get it figured out offensively because the same way that we talked about all of the games before this, the same way we talked about all the games after Duke last year, every game is winnable and every game is losable. That's just the reality. So who is this team going to be about it? That answer is about to come out very shortly here.
And something else I want to touch on quickly. I see Leonard Creech is asking about Hollywood Smothers. Did not suit up or play today, but it's unspecified what the reasoning is. Now, I don't want to speculate or stir the pot at all, but I don't really know. It seems like a very odd situation. We were certainly not privy to any injury news involving Smothers over the course of this week, but that is something to certainly keep your eye on moving forward. Bigger picture here on Saturday. We'll get further into it on Monday, but yeah, the offense, you need to find answers in quickly. We're still having way too many questions about how we can consistently move the ball down the field. It seems like you were starting to answer some of those questions early in that first quarter. I cannot believe that you hit Noah Rogers twice in the first quarter for 48 yards, and the man does not have another catch the entire rest of the day. That is blasphemous to me. In my biggest Stephen A. Smith impression, blasphemous. How can you possibly expect to grow this offense and grow your chemistry with the quarterback and young wide receivers and development if you're not using them? These are the guys you brought here to revamp the entire look of your offense. If you are not using them, it's the definition of insanity. The run game has not been good enough or consistent enough to lean back on that. The quarterback play, we're kind of going through it at the moment. We're working out a freshman quarterback. He's going to be a freshman quarterback. He's going to make freshman quarterback mistakes. We saw that a little bit today. At least he didn't turn the ball over. I think that's a small silver lining. Took good care of the ball. Almost fumbled, but we didn't lose it. You're still continuing to find the good with the bad. And that is a pain that we have to say that very sentence every single week. It's very stale. It's very unmotivating type of football. Unfortunately, that is kind of the brand of Dave Doeren football here in year 12. We're eking by. We're winning the game ugly. We're winning the game with defense. That is what we've been known to do. So at least we did that and accomplished that here on Saturday. NC State wins over Northern Illinois. I almost said escape, but I'm tired of saying that too. NC State wins over Northern Illinois 24-17 in Carter-Finley on Saturday. The CW, the Dark Magic, is back. We are still undefeated in football on the CW. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we're on the CW again next week against Wake Forest. Certainly looking for more of that Dark Magic, because we all know this football team needs it right now. But victory here. Always take that. We're 3-2, much better than 2-3. Thank you all so much for joining us here on our post-game live. We always love these, good, bad, and indifferent. You know, it's our NC State football. They're ugly. It's an ugly win, but it's our ugly win to celebrate. It's our baby, as Kenton loves to say on here. So thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop all of your comments. I'm sure there will be a ton of comments. Get all of those in the comment box. Mash that subscribe button. And as always, we'll see you right back here on Monday for big picture takeaways, what we can take from this game moving forward, because we gotta pick up the pace. We're getting into full-on ACC play coming up next weekend. A lot of work to be done before then. Thank you all so much for joining us, and until Monday, go Pack.
Go Pack.